A teenage schoolgirl is chosen to defend the dream world against the king of the dark world and prevent his conquest of the universe. This is Valis. Valis is one of 12 games included in Evercade cartridge 23, Renovation Collection 1. This game was originally released for the NEC PC-88 back in 1986, where it was known as Mugen Senshi Valis, or Valis, the Phantasm Soldier. The game was ported to many platforms, and even though the story remains mostly consistent between these releases, some ports of the game would completely rework the gameplay to the point to where it can be considered a remake or a remaster. The game would also receive ports in 1986 for the MSX and Sharp X1, and in 1987 for the NEC PC-98, the Fujitsu FM7, and the Nintendo Famicom. The Famicom version was the first version to greatly change the way the game played from the original, as this is the only version of the game to feature maze-like maps. Next to be released is the Sega Mega Drive/Genesis version in 1991, and this could be considered to be a remaster of the original version of the game, as it vastly improves the graphics, gameplay, and level design. This is the only version of the game to get a release in North America, where it was titled simply Valis. This is the version of the game that's included in the Renovation Collection 1 for the Evercade. There was then a release in 1992 for the NEC PC Engine CD, and this further builds upon the Genesis version with even more refined gameplay, upgraded graphics and animation, fully voiced cutscenes, and of course CD quality music. The last version of the game was released in 2005 for the Vodafone. However, since this was a digital-only title for a Japanese mobile phone, it is very difficult to play these days, as well as to even see decent footage of it. Valis, the Phantasm Soldier, spawned 3 sequels released on a variety of platforms, as well as a few auxiliary titles and collections. The story begins as teenager Yuko is leaving school. She notes that the weather has been rather strange lately, as she gets caught in the rain and stands under an awning waiting for it to stop. Just as it stops, her classmate Raiko approaches and talks to Yuko and leaves some cryptic comments before taking off in a direction opposite from where she lives. Shortly thereafter, Yuko is attacked by a monster, but a sword appears in her hand, and that's the point at which the game starts. In the first level, Yuko runs through the streets destroying monsters in her path, and eventually encounters and defeats Gaida, the leader of this particular invasion force. We are then filled in with the rest of the story via cutscene. Yuko is summoned to the dream world, ruled by Queen Valia, who explains that humans are influenced by both the dream world and the dark world, creating a yin and yang effect on the human world. However, since the king of the dark world, Rogueless, has been invading the dream world with the intent to take over, the yin and yang in the human world has been thrown out of whack, causing the darkness in humans to start taking over. The sword that appeared in Yuko's hand is the Sword of Valis, and it chose Yuko because she had the perfect balance of yin and yang, making her potentially the most powerful warrior. Although initially reluctant to fight, Valia is eventually able to convince Yuko to fight Rogueless's generals, collecting the Phantasm jewels that they carry, and then confront Rogueless himself. The game itself is a hack-and-slash platformer where Yuko has a few basic actions that she can perform. She has a standard jump, but holding up while jumping will cause her to jump higher. There's a slide button, which is actually used for something that you wouldn't initially think of. Occasionally you'll run across these gaps in the ground you'll need to cross, but if the ceiling's too low to jump over the gap, well, you can just slide over it. I mean, it's kind of weird, but it works. And of course you've got your attack button to swing your sword. Throughout the game you'll encounter 5 different sword icons, and these will change the effect of swinging your sword. You've got bullets, laser, homing arrows, cutter waves, and short-range explosive grenades. If you collect another sword effect item that is the same one that you currently have, the attack is upgraded. Each attack effect has 3 levels. Every time Yuko defeats a general and collects a Phantasm jewel, she also gains the magical ability of the general that was just defeated, kinda like a Mega Man game. Pressing start to pause game will allow you to select which magic you want to use, and pressing up an attack will use the selected magic in the game. Using magic will consume magic points, so you'll only be able to perform the ability if there's enough magic points to use it. And of course, every magical ability consumes a different amount of points, and pretty much the magic that you can get later in the game will be more powerful and use up more magic points. Oddly enough, when you beat a level or lose a life, all of your health points will be restored, but your magic points won't be. The only way to restore your magic points is to collect an item that will replenish them from item boxes. Also, when losing a life, your sword level will be taken down a level as well. Even with all this taken into account, this is one of the easier versions of Valis since your health meter will last quite a long time, and even when you get a game over, you're allowed an infinite amount of continues, although if you do continue, you'll have absolutely no weapon effect, but there's usually one to acquire at the start of each level anyway. Personally, I really enjoyed this title. I found it fun to experiment with the different weapon types, and although some of the levels are a bit maze-like and some paths lead to dead ends, there was always something to collect before you needed to turn around. I also thought it was nice that defeated monsters do not respawn, so if you need to turn around or backtrack through a portion of a level, it's a clear path if you've already defeated the monsters in that area. I wish though that Yuko could run just a little bit faster throughout the levels, but more importantly, I wish that the controls were just a little bit more responsive. There were times that I wanted to turn around and attack, but Yuko wouldn't turn around before attacking. I presume this was because she was still in an animation from a previous action, but as a result it makes the controls feel a little bit sluggish. Also, it can be a little bit difficult to tell if you're hitting an enemy or not, especially if you have a weak weapon. Also, it's a little bit annoying that your magical abilities is used pressing up and the attack button because it can interfere with your ability to press up and jump to jump higher, because sometimes you'll want to jump higher and attack, but if you happen to be on the ground, you'll accidentally use your magic instead. I think this whole issue could have been resolved if you could just jump higher to begin with, or maybe even double jump, then it wouldn't interfere with your ability to push up and attack for your magic ability. Still, with all that, it's not something I found overly frustrating, primarily because the game is very generous with your health, and there aren't a whole lot of instant death pits to fall into. It was also kind of cool to see those extended cutscenes playing out in a Genesis title though, and it was also nice that you could skip them if you wanted to. I really liked Valis, however, sluggish controls and questionable hitboxes mean that I have to knock it down a little bit from where I'd like to put it. So looking at the rankings for all our games so far in the Renovation Collection, all we've got left here is Valis and Valis 3. So we're going to take Valis 3, and I would have liked to have put it around El Viento on level S, but I think I've got to drop it down to A. But honestly, on all the games I've put here on tier A, I think I've liked Valis the most out of all of them, so I've got to put it at the top there ahead of Granada. And here we are looking at the rankings for all of our Evercade games so far that I've looked at. And I'm going to take Valis here. We've got to scroll all the way up to tier A here. Where's Granada? Because I've got to put it above Granada. There's Granada. So, yeah, I think better than 7800 Asteroids. Better than the Ignition Factor. I think I even liked it better than Arcageous Revolution. NES Burger Time, yeah, absolutely. Super Spike V-Ball, yeah. Oh, Biomechanical Toy, now that's an iffy one. I think I've got to put it just under Biomechanical Toy, and right above Super Spike V-Ball. Alright, as with many of the games in Renovation Collection 1, there is a code that can be entered to make the game incredibly easy. Now, since the Evercade allows you to remap the buttons, I'll be referring to the buttons as if we were using the original Genesis controllers. At any time during the game, if you pause and bring up the Magical Abilities selection screen, while on this screen, take a controller plugged into the second player port and press right, A, and B at the same time, and then instantly all of your health and magic points will be refilled. This is only possible on the Evercade VS, as there is no way to use a second controller on the handheld Evercade variant. Even if you only have one controller for the Evercade VS, you can unplug the controller from port 1, plug it into port 2, input the button combo, and then plug it back into port 1, and you'll still be good to go. This next code can be used by all Evercade users. If you hold down A, B, and C while pressing start on the title screen, you'll be taken into a music test where you can listen to all of the music in the game. The only way you'll be able to exit, however, is to reset the game. And that'll wrap it up for Valis. Next time, we'll be looking at Valis 3 from the same cartridge, Renovation Collection 1.